It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. Tyler Durden. The 1996 novel Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk and its 1999 film adaptation have become cult classics, resonating with generations of readers and viewers. On the surface, the story appears to glorify violence and nihilism. However, a deeper philosophical analysis reveals profound themes about the human condition in modern society. The tale of an unnamed narrator's descent into the anarchic underworld of fight clubs and his alter ego, Tyler Durden, serves as a provocative meditation on consumerism, masculinity, authenticity, and the search for meaning in a world that often feels empty and soulless. Rejecting consumerism and reclaiming identity. One of the central themes in Fight Club is the rejection of consumerism as a path to fulfillment and identity. The narrator, a white-collar drone, initially finds solace in retail therapy, believing that acquiring the perfect furniture and wardrobe will somehow complete him. I flip through catalogs and wonder, what kind of dining set defines me as a person? He laments. This sentiment echoes the philosopher Erich Fromm's critique of the modern marketing character in his book, To Have or To Be, where he argues that our obsession with possessions and status has led to a diminished sense of self. Through his alter ego, Tyler Durden, the narrator begins to strip away these material signifiers and reclaim a more primal, authentic identity. The things you own end up owning you, Tyler warns, urging the narrator to let go of his attachment to possessions. This process of shedding the false self constructed by society is painful but necessary for growth. As Tyler puts it, it's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. Pain as a path to enlightenment. Indeed, Fight Club suggests that pain and suffering can paradoxically serve as a pathway to enlightenment. The narrator's insomnia and existential angst initially lead him to seek solace in support groups for terminally ill patients. By confronting death and embracing the pain of others, he finds a temporary sense of catharsis and connection. Losing all hope was freedom, he realizes, foreshadowing his later transformation through Fight Club. This idea that suffering can wake us up to what really matters is echoed by many philosophers and spiritual traditions. The Buddha taught that life is suffering, and that by accepting this truth, we can find a path to liberation. Friedrich Nietzsche famously declared, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger," suggesting that adversity can be a catalyst for personal growth. In Fight Club, the physical pain of bare-knuckle brawling becomes a way for men to strip away the numbing comforts of modern life and feel truly alive. As Tyler explains, we don't have a great war in our generation, or a great depression, but we do. We have a great war of the spirit. We have a great revolution against the culture, embracing radical authenticity. At its core, Fight Club is a call to embrace radical authenticity in a world that often rewards conformity and fakeness. The narrator's journey is one of stripping away the layers of societal programming to uncover his true self, warts and all. This process is messy and at times destructive, but it is presented as necessary for breaking free from the shackles of a sanitized, corporate-controlled existence. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre argued that authenticity requires accepting the inherent meaninglessness of life and taking responsibility for creating our own values and purpose. In Fight Club, this existential awakening is symbolized by the narrator's realization that he and Tyler are the same person, and that he must confront the darkness within himself. "I'm Jack's inflamed sense of rejection," he intones, owning his pain and rage. This embrace of authenticity also extends to the relationships between the men in Fight Club. Stripped of their social masks and material signifiers, they are able to connect on a primal, vulnerable level. As the narrator observes, who guys are in Fight Club is not who they are in the real world. This echoes the philosopher Martin Buber's concept of the I-thou relationship, a true meeting between two authentic beings. Finding meaning through deconstruction. As the story progresses, Fight Club evolves from a bare-knuckle brotherhood into Project Mayhem, a full-scale anarchist movement aimed at undermining the foundations of modern society. Led by Tyler Durden, the Space Monkeys engage in increasingly subversive and destructive acts, from vandalizing corporate art to plotting the destruction of the financial system. While these actions are extreme and morally questionable, they can be seen as a radical attempt to find meaning through the deconstruction of a world that feels false. This theme of destruction as a path to creation is echoed by various philosophers and thinkers. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche famously proclaimed, "God is dead," suggesting that the traditional foundations of meaning and morality had collapsed, and that it was up to individuals to create their own values. In Fight Club, Tyler Durden embodies this Nietzschean spirit of rebellion and reinvention, urging his followers to break the chains of society and destroy the world as we know it, so that something better can emerge. Similarly, the French philosopher Jacques Derrida developed the concept of deconstruction, a method of critical analysis that seeks to reveal the hidden assumptions and contradictions within a text or system of thought. In Fight Club, the space monkeys engage in a kind of physical deconstruction, attacking the symbols and structures of consumer capitalism in order to expose its hollowness and absurdity. As Tyler puts it, "The liberator who destroys my property is fighting to save my spirit. The teacher who clears all possessions from my path will set me free." Duality of the self. Perhaps the most fascinating philosophical theme in Fight Club is the exploration of the duality of the self. Throughout the story, the narrator and Tyler Durden are presented as separate characters, with Tyler embodying the narrator's repressed desires and impulses. In a shocking twist, it is revealed that they are actually the same person, with the narrator having developed a split personality as a coping mechanism for his existential crisis. This revelation can be seen as a metaphor for the divided self that many people experience in modern society. We often feel torn between our authentic desires and the roles and expectations imposed upon us by the world. As the philosopher Alan Watts observed, we are living in a culture entirely hypnotized by the illusion of time, in which the so-called present moment is felt as nothing but an infinitesimal hairline between an all-powerfully causative past and an absorbingly important future. In Fight Club, the narrator's split personality represents this temporal divide, with Tyler embodying the present-focused, spontaneous, and rebellious side of his nature, while the narrator remains trapped in the past and future, obsessing over his job, his possessions, and his place in society. The integration of these two selves is ultimately presented as the path to wholeness and liberation. This theme of the divided self has been explored by many philosophers and psychologists over the centuries. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato used the metaphor of a chariot drawn by two horses, representing the rational and irrational aspects of the soul, with a charioteer tasked with reining them in and guiding them towards truth and goodness. More recently, the psychoanalyst Carl Jung developed the concept of the shadow, the repressed and unconscious aspects of the self that we often project onto others. Hitting rock bottom becomes a paradoxical path to freedom and authenticity. In Fight Club, hitting rock bottom becomes a paradoxical path to freedom and authenticity. By stripping away the false layers of identity and meaning imposed by society, the narrator is able to confront his own shadow and reclaim a sense of primal wholeness. While the story's violence and nihilism may be disturbing, it can be seen as a provocative thought experiment about the lengths to which people will go to break free from the chains of a soul-crushing existence. Ultimately, the message of Fight Club is not to glorify violence or anarchy for its own sake, but rather to urge us to question the systems and assumptions that shape our lives, and to have the courage to create our own meaning and purpose in a world that often feels meaningless and absurd. As Tyler Durden puts it, we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. By rejecting this cycle of consumerism and conformity, and embracing the inherent duality and contradiction of the self, we may just find a path to true freedom and authenticity. Of course, Fight Club is a work of fiction, and its themes and ideas should not be taken as prescriptive or literal. The story is intended to provoke thought and discussion, not to provide easy answers or solutions. As with any work of art or philosophy, it is up to each individual to grapple with its meaning and significance, and to find their own path to liberation and authenticity in a complex and challenging world.